You wake up at 3 in the morning, heart pounding. Someone was chasing you. You cannot remember their face, only the fear. Your legs felt heavy, like running through wet sand. You lie there in the dark, breathing hard. And slowly you realize, nobody was actually chasing you. You are safe in your bed. Nothing actually happened to you. But your body does not believe that yet. Your heart is still racing. Your skin is still slightly damp. Something in you was completely convinced just a moment ago that you were about to die. This happens to almost everyone. Being chased, falling from somewhere high, losing your teeth one by one, standing in public with no clothes on, failing an exam you never studied for. Across every culture, every country, every century researchers have looked into, the same handful of nightmares keep showing up. Not random ones, the same ones, over and over, in people who have never met each other. That should strike you as strange. If dreams were just random noise, random static from a resting brain, why would they be so specific? Why would millions of people who share no language and no history dream the exact same disasters? There is an answer, and it is stranger than most people expect. Your brain is not malfunctioning at night. It is training. Every single night, your brain builds a fully immersive simulation, and it fills that simulation with threats: being hunted, falling, losing status, being exposed and vulnerable in front of others. This is not an accident. This is not your subconscious being dramatic for no reason. This is one of the oldest survival systems in the human brain, running exactly as designed. Researchers call it threat simulation theory. The idea is simple, and once you hear it, you cannot unsee it. Your brain uses sleep to rehearse danger, not to punish you, not to torment you, to prepare you. Think about what dreaming actually requires biologically. Your eyes move rapidly. Your brain activity spikes to levels close to being fully awake, and yet your body is paralyzed, almost completely locked down. This paralysis has a name. Scientists call it REM atonia. Your brain deliberately shuts off the signal to your muscles during dreaming sleep. It disconnects the simulation from your actual body. Why would it do that? Because the simulation needs to feel completely real to be useful. If your legs could actually run while dreaming, you would fall out of bed and hurt yourself. You would wake your household and expose yourself to real danger while pretending to escape a fake one. So the brain built a safeguard: full sensory immersion, zero physical consequence. It is, in the most literal sense, a flight simulator. Pilots train for engine failure in a simulator, so if it happens for real, their body already knows what to do. Your brain does the same thing to you every single night, with threats instead of engines. It runs you through being chased. It runs you through falling. It runs you through public humiliation and social collapse. Not because these things are likely to happen tomorrow, because rehearsing the fear response again and again keeps the circuitry sharp, ready and fast when it matters most. The Finnish researcher Antti Revonsuo, who formalized this theory, studied thousands of recorded dreams across dozens of cultures, and the pattern held everywhere. Negative emotions dominate dreams far more than positive ones. Threatening events appear constantly, and the threats are almost always ancestral: predators, falling from height, conflict with other people, being physically vulnerable. Not car crashes, not spreadsheets or deadlines, not late emails. The brain is not simulating your actual modern life. It is simulating the dangers that killed your ancestors for hundreds of thousands of years. This is where it gets interesting. Long before anyone had heard of REM sleep or amygdala activity, ancient civilizations were already convinced that dreams meant something. Not something mystical and vague, something specific and actionable. In ancient Egypt, dream interpretation was treated as a serious discipline. Egyptian priests called themselves the masters of the secret things. Their job was to interpret dreams as warnings from the gods. The Chester Beatty Papyrus, one of the oldest surviving dream manuals, lists hundreds of dream scenarios and their meanings. Falling from a great height was interpreted as a warning of coming misfortune. Losing teeth was seen as a sign of loss within the family. Being pursued by an enemy was read as a direct omen of real danger approaching. These interpretations were not decoration. Egyptians acted on them. They changed plans, they made offerings, they avoided certain actions based on what a dream seemed to warn them about. The Mesopotamians took this even further. In ancient Mesopotamia, entire temples were built around dream interpretation. Dream books, called the Assyrian Dream Book, cataloged thousands of possible dream images and their real-world implications. A king would not go to war without having his dreams analyzed first. A farmer would not plant a field without checking whether his sleep had warned him of drought. To modern eyes, this can look like superstition. Priests reading tea leaves made of sleep. But look closer at what they were actually doing. They were treating dreams as a genuine source of survival information, and in a strange way, they were not entirely wrong. They did not understand the biology. They had no concept of REM atonia or amygdala activation or evolutionary rehearsal circuits. But they correctly identified something science would not formally explain for another 4,000 years. Dreams are not noise. Dreams are signal. They just misread the signal as a message from the gods, instead of a message from your own ancient nervous system. The content is not divine. The content is ancestral. Let's go one level deeper into the actual machinery for a moment. During REM sleep, one part of your brain becomes unusually active, a structure called the amygdala. This is the region most responsible for processing fear and detecting threats. While you dream, your amygdala can be even more active than during ordinary waking life. Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex, the rational, logical, reality-checking part of your brain, goes quiet. This is not a coincidence. It is the exact combination needed to build a convincing threat simulation. High fear response, low critical analysis. Your brain intentionally dims the part of itself that would normally say, "This is not real, calm down." Because if that part stayed fully online, the simulation would lose its power. You would not feel real fear. And without real fear, the rehearsal would not actually train anything. The whole system depends on you believing it, at least while you are inside it. Once you understand this, nightmares stop looking like malfunctions. They start looking like precision engineering. A brain region for fear turned up. A brain region for doubt turned down. A body locked in place so the simulation cannot hurt you. Every single piece of that design serves one purpose, making the rehearsal feel completely real without any real consequence. Now let's talk about the specific nightmares, because none of them are random either. Take falling as an example. It is one of the single most common dreams reported across every study ever conducted. Why falling specifically? Because for millions of years, falling was one of the deadliest threats your ancestors faced. Falling from a tree while sleeping, falling from a cliff edge while foraging. A single fall could break a leg, and a broken leg in the ancestral world was often a death sentence. No hospitals, no crutches, no safety net. Just exposure, starvation, or predators finishing the job. Your brain still treats falling as a 5-alarm emergency. Even now, even in a world full of railings and airbags and modern medicine. Now take being chased. This one barely needs explanation. For most of human history, being pursued by something faster and stronger than you was a literal daily possibility. Predators hunted at dawn and dusk. A human caught alone, exposed, without allies, was in genuine danger. Your brain rehearses this scenario obsessively. For 200,000 years, it was one of the most common ways to die. Now take losing your teeth. This one confuses people because teeth are not obviously dangerous. But think about what teeth meant to your ancestors. Teeth were tools. Teeth were weapons. Teeth were a visible sign of health and vitality. Losing teeth meant losing the ability to eat properly, to defend yourself, to signal strength to your tribe. In small ancestral groups, visible physical decline could mean losing status, losing protection, losing your place in the group. The dream is not about dentistry. It is about losing your standing in a world where standing meant survival. Now take public exposure. Standing in a crowd with no clothes on, completely vulnerable. This maps directly onto one of the oldest human fears there is. The fear is social rejection. In a tribe of roughly 150 people, Being cast out was close to a death sentence. No protection, no shared resources, no safety in numbers. Being seen as weak, exposed, or humiliated in front of the group carried real existential weight. Your brain still treats public embarrassment with the same intensity it once reserved for exile. That is why the fear feels so disproportionate to the actual stakes of a modern presentation or a modern mistake. The wiring has not caught up to the fact that failure no longer means banishment. Here is something that makes all of this even more convincing. Children have far more nightmares than adults, and the frequency peaks between the ages of 3 and 6. Why would evolution front-load nightmares into early childhood? Because that is exactly when a young human is least equipped to handle real danger, and most in need of rehearsal. A 3-year-old cannot outrun a predator. A 3-year-old cannot navigate social hierarchy on their own. A 3-year-old is entering a world full of threats they do not yet understand. So the brain runs extra simulations, more rehearsal, more preparation, more mental reps against dangers the child cannot yet survive in real life. As you grow older and become genuinely more capable of handling real threats, the intensity of your nightmares gradually declines. The training program adjusts to your actual competence level. That is not superstition. That is an adaptive system responding to real developmental need. There is something else worth understanding here. Not everyone dreams with the same intensity, and that difference is not random either. Studies have found that people who report higher anxiety in waking life tend to have more frequent, more vivid nightmares. At first, this looks like bad news, more anxiety causing worse sleep. But flip it around for a moment. A more anxious brain is a brain that perceives more potential threats in its environment, and a brain that perceives more threats has more material to rehearse. The system is not being cruel to anxious people. It is simply running more training sessions because it has detected more to prepare for. This does not mean anxiety is good, or that suffering through nightmares is something to be grateful for. It means the system is internally consistent. More perceived danger produces more rehearsal. Less perceived danger produces less. The dial moves in the direction the brain's threat detector points it. There is also a strange twist to how some people respond to this system once they understand it. Lucid dreaming is the practice of becoming aware that you are dreaming while still inside the dream. It has been studied specifically in the context of nightmares. People who learn to recognize when they are dreaming can sometimes intervene in their own nightmare, not to escape it, but to change how they respond inside it. Turning to face the pursuer instead of running. Choosing to fall calmly instead of flailing in panic. Therapists have used this technique clinically, especially for people with chronic nightmares or trauma-related dream patterns, and it works in many documented cases, which tells you something remarkable about the system underneath all of this. It is not a fixed recording playing on a loop. It is a live simulation that can be engaged with, influenced, even partially directed. The rehearsal space is real enough that you can practice inside it. Which is, if you think about it, exactly what a good training simulator should allow you to do. Now here is where the story gets a little heavier. This same system, the one designed to protect you, can also become overloaded. People who experience severe real trauma often report recurring nightmares that replay the traumatic event, sometimes for years afterward. This is not the system malfunctioning randomly. This is the same threat rehearsal circuit stuck in an extreme feedback loop. When a threat is severe enough, the brain treats it as urgent enough to require repeated, intensive rehearsal, over and over. Trying to process something the waking mind could not fully process at the time it happened. In PTSD, this rehearsal system essentially gets stuck in the on position. The simulator that was built to prepare you for danger becomes a simulator that cannot stop replaying it. The mechanism is the same. The intensity has simply overwhelmed the system's normal operating range. There is a reason PTSD nightmares are so much harder to shed than ordinary bad dreams. In an ordinary rehearsal, the brain runs the threat, extracts what it needs, and moves on. The simulation ends when the lesson is learned. But real trauma often involves a threat the person could not escape or fight, a threat they could not resolve in the moment it happened. So the rehearsal circuit keeps running the same scenario, searching for an ending that never comes. It is trying to find the resolution that reality never provided. This is part of why trauma-focused therapies often work by helping a person process the original event consciously. Once the waking mind can fully process what happened, the rehearsal sometimes has what it needs and finally stops looping. The system is not broken in these cases. It is doing exactly what it always does, searching for a way to prepare you. It is just stuck searching for preparation that the original event never allowed. Understanding this does not erase the pain of it, but it does reframe it. The nightmares are not evidence that something is broken inside you. They are evidence of a survival system working exactly as designed, at an intensity the modern brain was never meant to sustain. Now think about your own nightmares for a moment, not as random noise, not as something to be ashamed of or embarrassed by, as training data. Every chase, every fall, every moment of public exposure is your ancient brain rehearsing, the same rehearsal it has run for 250,000 years. It does not know that saber-toothed predators no longer exist. It does not know that a broken leg is no longer a death sentence. It does not know that public failure no longer means exile from the only group that could keep you alive. It is still running the old program, faithfully, every single night, without exception. This is why the Egyptians and the Mesopotamians were onto something real, thousands of years before anyone understood the biology behind it. They sensed that dreams carried weight, that they were not empty, that something inside them was trying to say something true. They were right about the significance. They were wrong only about the source. It was never a god sending you a warning. It was your own nervous system, running a rehearsal it has never stopped running since before language existed. Now think about the nightmares that feel distinctly modern, showing up to an exam you never studied for, standing in front of a room to give a presentation with nothing prepared, being late for something urgent and unable to move fast enough to get there. These do not look ancestral on the surface. There were no exams 200,000 years ago. There were no boardrooms, no deadlines, no performance reviews. But look at the underlying shape of the fear, not the modern costume it is wearing. An exam you cannot pass is a test of competence in front of a group. A presentation with nothing prepared is public exposure and potential humiliation. Being late and unable to move is the ancient nightmare of being trapped, exposed, and unable to escape. Your brain has not built new nightmare categories for modern life. It has taken your oldest fears and dressed them in whatever clothing your current world provides. The underlying algorithm never changed. Only the props changed. This is why an exam dream and a chase through the forest dream can feel oddly similar in your body. Both trigger the exact same ancient alarm: exposure, judgment, loss of standing, possible expulsion from the group. Whether the group is a tribe or a classroom, the wiring does not know the difference. So the next time you wake up at 3 a.m, heart pounding, chased by something you cannot name, do not treat it as a malfunction. Do not treat it as meaningless static from an idle brain. You just completed a training session, one your ancestors could not have survived without, one that is still quietly running every single night, whether you remember it or not. Your brain is not broken. It is not being dramatic for no reason. It is doing what it has always done. It is preparing you for what comes next, rehearsing danger so that, if it ever comes, some part of you already knows exactly what to do. That is not a curse. That is not a flaw in the machine. That is one of the oldest acts of care your own biology has ever performed for you. Every night, without asking, without needing thanks, it runs the simulation again, not to frighten you, to keep you ready. And somewhere in that quiet, relentless rehearsal, running since before your ancestors had words for fear, is proof that some part of you has never stopped trying to keep you alive.